I love distortion pedals. Today, Paige and I are taking a look at the iSet distortion pedal. Distortion is probably one of my favorite effects. The sound of distortion to me is just rock and roll, and I play mostly rock stuff. I mean, metal has so many definitions. I guess a lot of what I play, maybe some people would call that. I don't know. But to me, distortion is kind of like that. You can get it in that borderline thing where you're kind of overdriving, or you're straight up distorting the sound out of your guitar. So you take your guitar and you clip it, or you make all sorts of nice noise with it. And distortion to me is great. It was 1986. I'd been playing guitar for probably about a year, and the David Lee Roth album, Eat 'Em and Smile, had just come out, and I was in Santa Barbara, California that summer for a couple of weeks, and I just happened upon a really cool music store. And I asked them, hey, what's the sound that Steve Vai gets on that David Lee Roth album? And they said, what, that wah, wah, wah sound? And I said, no, that ah. And they're like, oh, you want distortion? And I said, yeah. I had just had a little Gorilla amp, which I should have kept, turns out. Distortion into a kind of a cleanish amp can sound one way, and then distortion into maybe a mildly distorted amp can sound another way. So taking a look at this pedal, I'm going to throw it in front of a couple of different sounds. I'll try like a Marshall, kind of already mildly overdriven, kind of already grindy sound. And then we'll see how it sounds in front of a clean amp, like a Fender style amp too. Really simple setup, 9 volt. In fact, iSet was kind enough to send this along as well as a power supply. So I'm going to use this with their power supply and run it into my system. It's a little dark compared to what I had planned for with my camera, so I'll show it off here in a little bit of the light. So it has a level knob up here on your top right side of it, gain knob for more saturation. I noticed the pot of mine was a little bit dirty down here in the very, very low gain settings. It just kind of made a little bit of noise, so I'd have to hit that with like a pot cleaner. And then it has what does it have? I already said it has level. And then it has tone. So, and that'll help kind of when you're working with a different amplifier, you might need to brighten it up or darken it up a little bit. And that'll help you just kind of fine tune it with the amp that you pick. The tone knob will. And then the gain, of course, kind of same thing. If you're playing through a cleaner amp, you need a little more oomph, you need a little more of that gurn. You can do that with the gain knob here by turning it up clockwise. And then, of course, it does have a good bit of level coming out of it as well, but it's not quite like overdrivey levels, if you know what I mean. Like an overdrive pedal will output a lot more, whereas sometimes with a distortion pedal, it's going to be kind of more of a smooth venture. The distortion pedal from iSet, and it looks like here in the box, I even got myself a 25% off coupon. So if anybody wants to screenshot that and use it, there it is for you. I think that's a new thing that they're throwing into their pedals, because I haven't had one of those before. Helpful manual, 9 volt. You can't put a battery in these little guys. Remember, if you buy a small pedal, you cannot put a battery in them. I always see people complaining in reviews for things like that, like, I can't put a battery in here. Well, you could actually use a battery in one of those converters if you want to use a battery. If you have to use a battery, they have things like this that just attach to a battery. But today what we're going to do is power it up with the iSet power supply here. So anyway, distortion, my favorite of the gains. I like fuzz, I like overdrive. Distortion just kind of, some distortion pedals can borderline on that sound, on the fuzz sound. Others can kind of, hit the overdrive thing. This definitely has a lot of saturation going on, a lot of juice with that gain knob. So I'm going to plug it into a couple of different things, jam along to a couple of jam tracks, and check out the iSet distortion pedal. for me, that's a good kind of distortion sound. That's, of the 3 iSet gain pedals that I've had so far, the overdrive and then the kind of heavy metal one. The overdrive one is an overdrive, has a little more output and a little more of a less saturated sound. You get some of the guitar signal coming through it. The heavy metal one is definitely scooped sound, and you can mess with it and kind of get it a little more, a little less. But it sounds scooped, and it sounds even more scooped going into like a Fender thing that's already scooped. But this, you can, if you're going for just gain, distortion, that kind of pick attack and kind of full-on kind of a sound. If I'm playing through a cleanish amp, I could really get what I was liking. I could dial it in. I could make it just a little too harsh if I wanted, and back it off just a touch on the treble here, or on the tone. And then if it got a little too dark, but I was digging the sound, I could bring up the level some, and it has just enough level that even at those darker kind of settings, it didn't make me feel like I was getting lost when turning it on. So depending on what kind of a preamp you're running it into, you might want to tweak the sounds, but I could find satisfying sounds easily and quickly into both the kind of gains. And of course I had some delay going and some wah at different times, but that's just kind of what you do with distortion. You do the thing, and this does the thing really well. I mean, brown suits it. I think that's a good color for it. It makes it a little tough to see. I'll admit, I had to kind of look a couple of times to, which one? Oh yeah, okay, that's tone, that's level. But that's the way it is. You get used to that real quick, and it's kind of a set and forget thing because it is really interactive with the volume, especially on that cleaner one. You can it's interactive with the volume control, of your guitar. Cleans up real well. Anyway, I messed with this for a few nights just to see how much I really liked it and see what I could get out of it, and I could easily tell that after listening to it, I wanted to demo it into a couple of different types of amps. So I hope that was a good demonstration for you if this is something you're considering. Thanks again, guys, over at iSet. I appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. It's me, Double D. Take care.